Hello. I'm sorry to do this week, but this is going to be a short one. It'll probably come on live later with Alchem. But for Josh right now, we wanted to have a short discussion before he has to run off to work. Isn't that right?
Yay, work, 12-hour shift. It really be like that sometimes.
It does be like that sometimes. I know you said you wanted to go into Trump and the border wall, but as is tradition, I think we should start with something a little funny. And I
Fair
know
enough.
that you appreciate international politics. So you
hmm
know the internet anti-feminist shit poster slash commentator Sargon of Akkad, aka Carl Benjamin,
Carl Benjamin. Yep.
and you know his counterpart known for his Nazi pug video, Count Dankula.
Count Dankula. Rest in pieces, dude. Rest in
They
pepperonis.
are both official candidates for the UKIP EP, meaning that they are running to run for the European Parliament, so
Oh,
that they
holy
can
crap.
get Brexit onto the European Parliament table.
Oh man, I didn't even realize that the former was a part of that. I mean, I knew that Count Dankula was going to go for it, but I didn't realize that like Carl was. Oh man, okay. Jeez, that's well, celebrities will be celebrities.
Our
Honestly.
shit posters are politicians now.
But yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing. I expect that from America. I don't expect that from any other country in this world. And to think that the EU is going to follow suit, I, I know this is going to be kind of crapping on these, well, crap posters, so I guess it's fitting. But don't the politicians of those other nations have more self-respect? Like, not
Oof.
I literally have to put it in that severe stance. They just don't have self-respect. This idea that anybody can be a politician is true and yet at the same time incorrect. It's true in the aspect of the spirit of it, where anyone who works hard and puts in the due diligence and studies to be a politician can therefore have the potential to be a politician. Those who are just born and like, hey, I'm a human. No, you're not a politician, Buckaroo. You went online and threw all these nice, dank comments and whatnot. Maybe go and get a communications major and do more on the internet. But that's where your direction is, man. You are not helping to run a country. You got an opinion, vote for it.
This is true.
Yeah, that is
All right
so
then.
that is kind of funny though. That's gonna be the
Yeah,
Count Dankula. Like I
I
thought that
really hope one of them wins
yeah,
because I
after the Nazi pug thing, that was going to be his like that was going to be his one-hit wonder swan song, so to speak. But he's been becoming more and more relevant, which really surprises me. It's like dudes like PewDiePie are that way as well. The relics are somehow like pertaining to modern society still.
I have no idea whether or not they still pertain,
Oh, I'm almost certain they appertain.
but
I mean, and although
I
PewDiePie has
mean,
become
kind of a
more.
moot point as far as I'm concerned. Whether or not they're still relevant, I think that everything that has ever happened is still relevant.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll be like dead in the water. The one comment put like explodes, like it just explodes, and then they're back into the limelight. PewDiePie was like that a lot. The effing N-word. Ooh, when he said that, I mean his channel was dead. I tell you, Trigger, his channel was dead. And then he says that, and SJW, he's like, is that? Is that apple pie or is that bigotry? I can't tell. When they smelled bigotry, they sounded the alarm. Then suddenly half the nation woke up, and his fan base became a hate base. But at least he got popular for it again.
This is true. All
Okay,
right, so now to move on to what you really wanted to talk about, because I also really want to hear your take on this. Are you aware of the brilliant 4D chess move that Trump has made?
are you talking about when he tried to go for the GoFundMe?
No, with
Oh,
his wall.
which one are you talking about?
So Trump released a statement, and his statement was that the US will no longer be deporting illegal immigrants,
Oh, it will be migrant cities or something like
and
that.
instead we're going to be sending them all to sanctuary cities. And the Democratic Party is losing their fucking minds because apparently sending illegal immigrants to the sanctuary cities full of Democrats who supposedly love them is cruel and unusual to the immigrants, and a lot of them have started talking about how it's going to be bad for the cities, which is funny because I thought illegal immigrants were good for the economy. I thought illegal immigrants were great. But Trump has pulled this brilliant 4D chess move by saying that he's going to send all the illegal immigrants to them and stop deporting them. And suddenly he's gotten them to admit that illegal immigrants are bad.
Yeah, you see, here's the thing, right? You it, okay. When it came to the idea of the sanctuary cities, by the way, the map of it is quite interesting because I feel that they take it into account that an immigrant is not Mexico, not just Mexico. You've got them along like the East Coast, you've got them down south. Texas is actually fraught with different places as well. Uh, we've got some close to home at SoCal. Interestingly enough, though. Yeah, you got some like at the deep end, but oh, Los Angeles has a ton, and then you have some over in Denver.
Of
And then
course, LA.
Chicago, DC, New York, just New York itself. I don't know. I think the city, yeah, the city looks like it's there too. Of course, Florida is going to get hammered with Cubans, but it'd be like that. I mean, that's neither good nor is it bad. You know what I mean? It is what it is. However, when I look at these, and there's a lot of major cities. That's the point I'm trying to draw here. There's a lot of major things getting hit. It's not Ebbing, Missouri, that's going to be a sanctuary state. I mean, not a sanctuary state, a sanctuary city. And this does beg the question of the economy and why he chose these large scale cities. Because I'm gonna have to imagine that these large scale cities are already near overpopulation. They're dumplings ready to pop.
Well, it's
Uh,
because these cities have already declared themselves as sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants. That's
yeah,
that's
and
why.
And I wonder about that because it is true, but it's like the martyr who put on too much of a workload. LA don't need no more people. I'll be frank, man. I
Oh,
mean,
you know it. I know it too. Every time I go up there, oh fucking hell.
yeah, it's like adding in that new unwanted second cousin twice removed. You know what I mean? There's just more and more people, and they've got more than they know what to do with, man.
Yeah, like we
And
drove up to LA to visit my godparents' family like the last time my godparents visited. And it was ridiculous because we went from their that family's house to go to a Denny's, and it was like a 2 hour drive. And when I asked how far we'd gone across the city, they were like, "Oh, we drove like 10 miles."
uh-huh.
That's how fucking packed the freeways are in LA. Like, if anyone complains about traffic anywhere else, I'm sorry, but the only place that I've been to that can complain about traffic compared to LA traffic
New York, man.
is New York.
Effing New York. Yep. Near
Even
LA.
Boston is better when it comes to traffic.
Man, and Boston's pretty heavy itself, dude. Thinking, yeah, I was just up at a tournament yesterday for LA, which by the way I won. The yeah,
Nerd.
nerd, I know, but we all have our loves in life.
You
So
and your Bakugan.
back again. Yeah, but hey, you know what? I'm gonna win a Yu-Gi-Oh one next. Well, actually, no, I won 10 of them already, but I wanted to go to LA and win a Yu-Gi-Oh one because those are big. But anyway, that's a side point. What I mean
Yeah.
to go on with this is, with respect to cities that call themselves sanctuary states, I see the ideology. However, there lies a bit of a schism that's unfortunate, where those who are sanctuary states should not take in more people. Those who could definitely use more people, I'm looking at you, Ebbing, Missouri, do not have the ideology to want to have immigrants in the first place, nor are they, ideally located.
Well, and see, I think what the language you're using is kind of the problem here, because we're not just talking about immigrants. I'm sure Ebbing, Missouri would love to have some immigrants. The problem is that they're illegal immigrants, right? These are illegal immigrants who are coming across the border. And I think what's brilliant is that even though it used to be like a universal thing, even back when Obama, that's how recent it was, where it was considered this universal idea that illegal immigration was a bad thing to have. Suddenly, Trump gets in office and he's talking about doing something, and illegal immigration is good, and Trump has just gotten all of these sanctuary cities to admit that illegal immigration is bad. All these people pretending to be holier than thou because they approve of illegal immigrants, which are supposed to apparently make the economy better. All of these people running sanctuary cities are talking about how it's going to make things worse for them, and it's going to make things worse for the illegal immigrants by
Uh,
putting them in the sanctuary cities, which you would think, right? You would think that the idea here would be, if they're going to the sanctuary cities, thank God they're not going to the racist Republican states that don't like them. You
oh
would
yeah,
think that
dude,
the
that'd be
sanctuary
hell.
cities would, you would think the sanctuary cities would be loving this, and they'd be like, yes, yes, please, please give us your illegal immigrants because the Republican states don't want them. But it
Yeah,
turns out the sanctuary cities don't want them either.
and this is where it becomes a bit brilliant because I liken this to a bit of analogy here. You've got you've got the parent, Trump, and you've got the children, the states, right? And no, I don't mean to do this in any sort of derogatory way. It's
Daddy
just for the
Trump.
analogy. Daddy Trump, right?
President Daddy.
Well, so Daddy Trump have all brings up he's like, hey, so there's this puppy, and the puppy is cute, right? And as one could imagine, the puppy in this case is the legal immigrants as a whole. And so the puppy looks really cute, and so some of the sanctuary states are like, "Hey, that puppy's cute. I want it." But then Daddy Trump warns them, and the sanctuary states would have to sometimes come out find they have to come and find out the hard way after having to deal with other puppies that, oh wait, animals are a lot of work. That you had to deal with them even though they're cute. And this is what the sanctuary states are having to deal with right now. And I say states, but bear with me. I mean cities in this case when I say states. But Trump's like, hey, you know what? Screw it. You want the immigrants, you love them so badly, you can have them. You know what I mean? Let's make this a non-issue altogether, and you guys can just, bite the bullet, right? But once he's like, you know what, go bite the bullet, suddenly it turns from save the puppy to, oh God, how am I going to take care of the puppy?
Yeah, and I now kind of want to move on, uh, because there's two things that I think you're gonna have a big opinion on. The
Mm-mm.
first of which, you remember when it was crazy talk to suggest that the White House was spying on Trump's political campaign?
When was it not crazy talk? Huh.
Well, it turns out that the people who were saying that Obama was spying on Trump and his campaign were correct.
Oh, okay. This I
Because
have to hear.
apparently a member of Obama's team admitted that they were spying on the Trump campaign on behalf of then President Barack Hussein Obama.
Oh, bro. Okay, so who's the representative and what was the specific language here? This is important stuff.
She was a member of the brief. She was the head of his briefing team, I believe, or at least part of his briefing team. And
Mm.
she talked about how constantly they were getting updates and briefs on Trump's political campaign, on things that weren't in the news, things that were like insider knowledge of the Trump campaign. And so
Hmm.
through that, we know now, Like, I thought it was kind of a stupid thing too. Like, obviously, Obama has better things to do than spy on Trump's campaign, especially because Obama thought so little of him.
Yeah, but lo and behold, right?
Lo and
And
behold, apparently he was.
this is a bit unfortunate on Obama's part, but not quite in the way that a lot of people might imagine. This is quite unfortunate because not just that it would, seemingly detract from his character, but what it would suggest as a result. See, for anyone who doesn't really keep up with this sort of rivalry the two have had, Obama and Trump are polar opposites. Ideologically speaking, I mean, dude, they're polar opposites all the way down to the tone of their skin. It really is like that. So,
I don't
the,
know. Orange is not the opposite of white. Or orange is not the opposite of black. In fact, I think orange is supposed to be the new black, right?
when two become one.
Yeah.
But anyway, switching. I mean, that was clever though. I gotta give you that, man. That was pretty clever.
A little iffy on the delivery, but
Yeah, that was pretty clever. But at least I managed to switch into something metaphysical at the end there. But so the anyway, right? The thing here is, for the longest time, ever since, especially in the beginning of Trump being sworn in office, it Trump was kind of perceived as this very unintelligent, rash, rude, you name it, he was it, kind of president. And he was trouble in the eyes of many politicians. And Obama was chief among them. Now, Obama was very civil and very educated, so he didn't directly do it, but there were a lot of comparisons coming out. He would, read these nice fifth grade books, whereas Trump would read the picture book, and it would be like dinosaur,
yeah.
cat, right? And so people really liked to rack on Trump's intelligence, and there was a lot of comparisons being dropped. And then what happened was Trump started to reverse a lot of the mandates set by, former President Obama, right? And this was seen as a sort of a vengeance tactic, as a sort of a I don't want to be inferior than thou, so I'm gonna, destroy these. I'm gonna destroy his legacy, so to speak. And so without even hardly lifting a finger, just kind of dabbling on the sidelines where, it was appropriate, Obama has gained so much of a definitive edge and reputation over Trump, even though it was basically fashionable to rack on Obama during his presidency. Shows a lot about how fickle society is. However, this is now where it's all going to tear down. Because Obama has been spying on him and whatnot, and this has been admitted, it shows not only kind of a lack of character and whatnot, but it shows that by him needing to keep tabs, there is a certain amount of reverence, of paranoia to what Trump is doing. He's starting to respect the power of Trump. And also, it could also go to show that he needs to keep up to understand what's happening. He needs to keep up because President Donald J. Trump is making intelligent moves. You heard it here first, folks. He is making intelligent moves as a president likely should. And Trump is making Obama second guess himself. It's making him perhaps even afraid
Well,
or
I
no,
mean,
wary
this
is
was
the
back
proper word.
during the 2016 election that this was happening, right? Because this was his briefing team, which meant that this was like years ago, but it's still an admission that Obama back then was afraid of Trump.
Right. And because of that, everything that was kind of built up, that you kind of call it like the calm, cool, collected, that composure and whatnot, that sort of persona that you make for yourself, that was a farce, it seems. Although I will admit that Barack was just acting a particular way. He wasn't really saying a particular way or another. So it was almost as if it was a society-made construct of what he was. But now he was spying on Trump, and he's like, oh man, I've got to keep tabs on him. He's someone to keep tabs of, and that is a compliment. I would certainly appreciate if someone who was a former president thought enough of me to keep tabs on my affairs. right?
Yeah.
And
Now, speaking of people respecting others as their equals, did you hear that Bernie Sanders agreed to town hall on Fox?
oh, I heard about Fox News and like Bernie Sanders. I didn't hear anything about town hall though. What's up?
Basically, Bernie Sanders agreed to speak at a town hall on Fox News. And what I think is absolutely hilarious is I'm gonna say that I agree with Bernie. Um, because as he's doing this, a lot of liberal media, including CNN, is talking about how awful it is that Bernie Sanders is giving Fox News a platform and legitimizing them by speaking. To which I say, a politician does not legitimize a news network by being on. A news network is legitimized by the number of viewers it has, and Fox News has a large audience. And oddly enough, that's what Bernie Sanders believes because he wants to try to talk to these people to create a common ground with what he sees as the opposition. And I personally find it amusing and I want to hear your opinion because it seems like the voice of reason in this situation, the person who is trying to reach out to the opposition is Bernie fucking Sanders of all people. And I
Yeah,
cannot believe it.
yeah, Bernie said that to me, that's pretty good because you wouldn't have expected dudes who are distinctly on one side in a platform to go against what is like, their platform. And when I say their platform, I don't mean their specifically, I mean their base, their voter base. And I will appreciate what Bernie Sanders is doing here because I feel that what Bernie Sanders is pulling off here is a sort of a slap of reality to society and it's a quasi noble way. You see, by doing this, he's pertaining to a more real, a more pure idea of equality. And not just equality, but just like representation and allowing for things. It is commonly held, even if not specifically stated, it is a commonly held ideal within the Democrats and the liberals and so on and so forth that everyone gets their word, everyone gets their piece, no matter what preconceived notions we have of how terrible or how untrustworthy they are, we give them their voice. This was the argument for, sexism. This was the argument for classism. This was the argument for racism. This was the argument for, the gender inequality. This was the argument for freaking same-sex marriage and, the homophobia that was rampant up until a few years ago. And this is now moving on to the media. Now, I will agree, he will not be able to validate a media on his own. He just won't. But that's not the point. He's trying to use this more as, okay, what is the media that is most controversial? Well, someone down the street could hear your thoughts and shout out Fox News. It's
This
that
is
bad.
true. I mean,
But just to continue a little
I
bit
mean
for
the idea that I don't want to sound like this, but I'm gonna let you continue after I say, um, thank you, Kanye. I think that the liberal media saying that Bernie Sanders is validating Fox News by going on live and talking to them is a red herring. I think it's a big red herring.
oh yeah, it is definitely red herring. I also because it's not really the core issue here. Like they're doing that as a way to distract the audience. I also would like to say that when it comes to Fox News and like Bernie Sanders, there's they not only put in a red herring, but within this red herring, they throw in an either or fallacy where, okay, he's either validating them or he's not. But that's so limiting it to he's trying to validate them at all. That's not what he's doing. What he's really doing is validating the ideals behind his own base. And
Hmm.
and that to me is a good move. It's a bit ingenious, in fact, because most of the liberals, even some of the, more moderately hardcore liberals. I never thought I would say moderate hardcore, but like those within the middle, so to speak, the
Well, yeah.
middle. Yeah.
I mean, the more and more that stuff like this goes on, the more and more I'm convinced that the meme that liberalism is a mental disorder is actually fact.
Well, a mental
Like,
disorder is like, okay, it's facetious to say a mental disorder, but I will say that it
it's
is.
a social disease. Is that more technically correct for you?
A social. Okay, look, I just read a book. Calling things diseases, disorders, and addictions is full of crap because those are scientifically denotative in nature. I would say that the proper way of putting,
Nothing can be scientifically denotative.
of course,
It's all from social perception.
social. Okay, now that's symbolic interactionist theory you're talking about, where
Yes,
man
it
creates
is.
problems, where yeah, like man identifies a problem, therefore it is. Rene
Are you
Descartes.
enjoying your first site or sociology class there, kid?
My first sociology class there. Hey man, I'll tell you one thing. I'm enjoying it so much, but you know what I'm enjoying even more? All them books I read prior.
Oof, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
mean,
You
I
know
think
what?
but I mean, to talk about my idea of like this social disease, I think that we see this too this week with Chris Evans. I assume or Alcom didn't know, but I assume you know who Chris Evans is.
Yeah, dude,
Alcom
Chris
has this
Evans.
weird thing where he doesn't watch movies or TV. Um,
Dude, yeah, Chris Evans is
so
yeah,
Captain
okay,
America,
yeah, duh, but no.
and he wants to make he put forward an idea for a TV show where he sits down people of opposing political viewpoints and has a discussion with them and has them talk to each other on a mutual level of respect on a mutual platform, right? That's the
Hmm.
idea he wants to go with. And sources like The Independent are talking about how this is a horrible idea and it'll only spread racism and white supremacy. And I think we see the concept of liberalism being a social disease really applicable here, right? Where you have someone who simply says, maybe we should listen. And Chris Evans, as we all know, has had some scathing opinions about conservatives, but even he recognizes that maybe both political sides just need to sit and listen to each other.
Yeah, give him a chance, you know?
And he is immediately treated with suspicion by the media and by his fellow people in Hollywood as a misguided or moronic attempt at something that will only spread hatred. And when you have people that are that blinded by their own ideology, I think that's where we begin to see most of society's problems and where we see it all coming from.
You see, to me, this isn't so much a social disease, but rather a shift in war. Like society has, and when I say society, I mean a nation, a civilization has two modes. They have direct war and indirect war. Direct war is, well, you're fighting somebody else, literal, like, blood, guts, death, that fancy stuff, right? But when you are at rest and you don't have war, society at rest is going to shift to social wars. And because humanity has a tendency, it's this irrevocable tendency of ours to want to fight something, to want to conquer and to change, and whatever C's you like to put in there.
Yeah.
And this is where it's just coming into light. Like whenever there is an opinion thrown out there, an opinion nowadays is a declaration. And just as there are declarations of war and direct war, there are declarations that can be seen as declarations of social war now. And that's why I was arguing against social disease, because disease doesn't feel quite right. A social war. does feel quite right. It feels perfect for what we're going on here.
All right,
And
that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, and humans are warlike beings. That's our nature. That's why I feel that people are overestimating alien invasions because I feel that even they are more technologically advanced, humans are too violent. We trounce them. It's just as simple as that. But the thing is, respect to Chris Evans, because this is the literal topic we're on at the moment. I feel that Chris Evans is caught up into an unfortunate media here. See, he was someone who honestly believed in the left, and he does believe in the left, and I can respect that. And I can doubly respect the fact that, in spite of whatever opinions he may have had against the right, he's trying to build an equal platform. He's doing what is not just subjectively, objectively the correct, moralistic, and proper choice here. And yet, liberals are going against him and backlashing at him because, just like sides at a war would think, they're seeing him as a Benedict Arnold. They're thinking of him trying to switch sides or wavering on the war resolve. And that's again that's
That's kind of
substantially.
the unhealthy mental attitude that I find a lot of leftists have, though,
Yeah,
is they
seriously.
have this concept that society is a war rather than society being a team effort.
Yeah, in society, this is an issue. It is a schism like nobody's business, and everyone is throwing hate at each other. And one of the most critical, this is sad here. This is just something that gives me great source of melancholy when I think about it. We all could work for something better, and yet we don't because there are misconceptions. And yet, because there are misconceptions, we do not communicate effectively. And yet what we cry out against are ill-conceived notions and not talking it out. And yet we don't do these things. Humans are, rationally speaking, intelligent enough to solve these problems. And yet we do not, because our greatest strength is our greatest weakness, and that is the emotional upbringing, not just our emotional source, but the emotional upbringing. We are charged by our environment. We are charged by nurture rather than simply by nature. And the most critical social unit, the social institution of family, is to be caused. And this has been a pet peeve of mine. In recent times, and yes, Fred, this actually stems more from that beginning sociology class because, mind you, I was literally helping out this girl who was in a master's sociology class. Yeah. Yeah, so, Bink. But anyway, enough trying to flex. There,
Ooh,
yeah, as I was saying, when this idea came up with the family as a social unit, it keeps on being a recurring theme that your family defines who you are. Now, there is a developmental process, and don't worry, I'm going to bring this all back to Chris Evans. Just watch the magic, right?
oh, I'm
Um,
waiting for the magic.
yeah. So there's a developmental process over the first 7 years of a person's life where virtually everything that they see, hear, and just observe with the five senses, so on and so forth, is ingrained into their psychology. It's ingrained into their minds, and they remember it. And this is so dramatic of a developmental process that simply by observing the nature of your family state, your possibilities, what you can imagine to be possible, is defined for you. And as a direct result, it is then argued that those who grow up in successful families or people who were active or outgoing end up bearing children who had this similar mentality, whereas children who were in downtrodden, poor areas tend to perpetuate this issue within their family. And it follows
Amazing.
here.
Sorry.
Yeah. And this is where I'm going to bring it back. It follows here. Chris Evans was did ideologically I'll be there in a moment. Chris Evans did ideologically follow through with the liberal ideal. However, he was not emotionally charged by it. And now he's starting to get dragged down by the cycle, those who are emotionally charged by it, those who had to grow up in such a loaded language environment, so to speak.
This
And
is very true.
I'll be right back, Trigger. I'm getting knocked on the door.
Oh, no, if you want, we can just leave now. But if you have the time, I would.
Oh, what's up? Just 1 second. What's up? Depends on the favor.
Oof. While he's gone, I'm gonna quickly give some opinions about the whole Ilhan Omar situation because that was one of the smaller topics that I might have gotten to. Um, and her statement that 9/11 was just some things that some people did.
It's a weekend.
I mean, other than to say how ridiculous it is that something like that is being trivialized, I mean, 9/11 was a horrible thing. I mean, it happened within my lifetime too. The fact the fact of the matter is, we have
No, I'm doing the trash.
a representative in the government who is very actively not. I don't want to say not American, but she is anti-Semitic. She's made very heavy anti-Semitic jokes. Um, Not even jokes, statements. She's made very anti-American statements as well in regards to how we deal with things like Al Qaeda.
I'm back.
Yeah, here we go. And yeah, I'm just gonna leave that there. Um, Amazingly, we might have enough time without Alchem here. I guess he takes up a lot of time. To talk about Julian Assange and Wikileaks.
Yeah,
So
here we
Julian Assange
go.
has been arrested on charges that have been dropped, and he's going to be extradited to the U.S. to face trial.
Yeah, Julian Assange, dude. It's funny because Assange's father was just talking about, hey, government, bring him home, please.
Yeah, not. And what I find is hilarious about the fact that the liberal media is celebrating this as a victory because they hate Julian Assange, especially after all the shit that he dug up on Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
What I find amusing about the fact that this is being treated as a victory by a lot of the left is that as soon as Julian comes to the US, our president loves him. Our president loves Julian Assange. He's just going to get pardoned. He's going to get pardoned almost as soon as he lands in America. I would put money on that. I would. I really would.
Oh yeah, dude. Joe Arpaio gets that treatment. This dude's getting the treatment.
And there's the huge conversation going on right now about whether or not he's a hero or a
Uh,
uh, a traitor.
mm,
And I'll admit, he's had some run-ins in the past with releasing too much information and putting lives at stake. The lives of people who are involved in the US government who were citizens in the Middle East who ended up getting killed because of what he posted. But at the same time, he's been releasing tons of sensitive information that the government's hiding from us. Like, this guy is basically the more persistent Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden dropped one piece of information that was huge and left.
uh-huh.
And Julian Assange has been consistently dropping just bombshell after bombshell. And
Yeah.
like the information that he shared is probably one of the biggest reasons I never trust the government. Holy shit, the things that they hide from us.
Yeah. What are some of the most damning cases that you've heard?
One of the bigger cases that I've seen were, like I said, obviously Hillary's email scandal and the dossier he released on the U.S. in the Iraq War in 2010. Those were both huge things.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people didn't believe And obviously, when the liberals were saying it, it was probably hyperbole, but a lot of people didn't believe that the US military was running around shooting, women and children who were lined up and defenseless until Julian Assange posted a video that he got encrypted files of from the US government and stole them from the government to post them online.
Yeah,
Like,
you know why I've been hearing about Julian Assange though?
what?
You know what the liberals are griping about as well? Not just you
Is
should
it
pick.
the sexual misconduct charges
Yes, and
that were dropped 2 years ago?
yep, and I was reading this article by The Guardian, where
Of course,
to
The Guardian.
yeah, The Guardian, and I tell you, that first paragraph was the most emotionally charged thing. Actually, no, not the most. That's being facetious. A lot of what, these leftist like articles have to show. They start with the emotional charging because it's a set formula. You get your audience angry and then they're inclined to listen to the rest and be indoctrinated. But as I was saying, they said sexual misconduct is the side salad for political games. Are you kidding me?
I
Like,
mean,
you
at this
kidding?
point, from what we've discovered, we know for a fact that Congress has a several $1 million trust fund set up just to pay women who they've sexually abused to shut up.
Yeah, and like, come
So
on.
they're not wrong. They're not wrong, but they also accidentally implicated their own people.
Dude, I know when they did that was that was like, hey, dude, like you got to put the safety on. And
All
he's
right.
like, yeah, okay. Anyway,
I think we're both going to have to go.
how come?
Um,
Oh, I still got
I'm
10 minutes.
getting some calls,
Oh, okay.
and
Wow,
someone just knocked
that's
at the
so fun.
door. So,
Gotcha. All right. So yeah, let's end it here, guys. Later tonight, Trigger and Alcom are probably gonna come up, and if you guys like Alcom's long-winded responses, he's quite the dude. So be prepared for that. My
may or may not be here with him, depends.
yeah.
Anyway, I will see y'all later.
See ya.
Bye.